I'll say it right now. The Robots of Death is absolutely one of my favourite surefire go-to Doctor Who stories of all time. The Robots of Death first aired on the BBC across January and February 1977. It was written by Chris Boucher and directed by Michael E. Bryant, both of whom do sterling work on this story. It also marks Leela's first adventure as a fully fledged companion, properly earning her time and space TARDIS miles after having been introduced in the previous story, The Face of Evil, also written by Chris Boucher. From the off, Leela, played by the amazing Louise Jameson, perhaps one of the best actors cast in a main role in the show's history, is totally up there as one of my favourite companions. And I think it's absolutely to the character's benefit that both her introduction story and her first TARDIS trip story are handled by the same author, really solidifying who she is as a person, her courage, her fearlessness, her curiosity, her intelligence and wit, her no-nonsense demeanour, and her fierce loyalty. Honestly, I could sing Leela's praises all day. But for now, I should stick to the Robots of Death, which is what we're here to review. And anyway, it's got plenty of standout Leela moments to talk about, so, win-win. At its core, Robots is an Agatha Christie-inspired science fiction whodunit, set entirely within the confines of Storm Mine 4, a sand miner vehicle making its way across the desert surface of a barren world, battered by sandstorms, looking for precious metals. When the Doctor and Leela materialise aboard, they're soon accused of murder. Isn't that always the way with the Doctor? Anyway, as more of the crew are picked off one by one, tensions rise and paranoia increases. When the Doctor suggests that the murders are being carried out by the sand miners' contingent of robot workers, the Vox, he's angrily scoffed at. The Doctor, however, is right. But the question remains, why? Why are the Vox killing the humanoid crew members? They're programmed not to harm their makers, so someone must be tampering with their coding. But who? And why? The Doctor and Leela, with the occasional aid of a secret undercover Vox, set about finding out. What really makes this whole thing work is just how well the society and culture of the sand miner crew are portrayed. The Robots of Death is a masterclass in Doctor Who world building. The combination of Boucher's writing, the incredible Art Deco style design of Kenneth Sharp, and the wonderful costume design of Elizabeth Waller, who also designed the Vox robots' iconic masks, come together seamlessly to create one of Doctor Who's most fully realised alien civilizations, the people of Kaldor. And the fact that all this is done while remaining aboard what is essentially an industrial work machine makes that realisation doubly impressive. In fact, let's start with that machine, the Storm Mine 4. Way before Star Trek The Next Generation gave us the comfortable, carpeted, fully upholstered and cushiony USS Enterprise D, and the idea of a working ship that also served both as a place where people could feel comfortable and at home, and as a place that reflected the culture that built it, we had the sand miner in Robots of Death. Storm Mine 4 might be a working craft, but the areas not specifically designed around the actual labour of mining and the storage and processing of minerals are made to feel opulent and luxurious, artfully and elaborately decorated. This is a culture that likes to show off, yes, but it's also a culture that wholeheartedly embraces comfort and style as a social good. This is also reflected in the clothes that they wear and the cosmetics they use. Honestly, I think it's safe to say that the Robots of Death features the best dressed and most stunningly made up miners ever seen in science fiction. Seriously, it's like a fashion show. It must take them all hours to get ready in the morning, making sure you don't repeat yesterday's outfit, ensuring that your elaborate headwear, should you so choose, perfectly matches the rest of your ensemble, choosing which cosmetics to apply and what shapes and designs they will take to really make your eyes, lips and cheekbones pop. There's no way that any of that is a 5-minute job. And I love that this is the case, whatever the gender. Both men and women in this culture proudly immerse themselves in this performative flamboyance. No doubt it helps that Kaldor, we can very clearly see, is also a culture where the bulk of the work is carried out by those Voc robots, allowing humans much more leisure to indulge in the more aesthetic side of life. It's basically what today's tech bros pretend to be offering us with AI, except in this reality and our reality, the only thing we can really expect to have more leisure to do is starve to death in poverty. Why are you so obsessed with having all the Grotzies, Sam Altman, you sociopathic dink? Yet, I like how the story makes sure that we understand from the get-go that this is far from a perfect state of affairs. Right at the beginning, we hear one crew member, Chubb, played by Rob Edwards, telling another a horror story about some poor guy accidentally having his arm ripped off by a Voc during a massage. Ironically, it's Chubb who's the first crew member to be killed by a robot before the Doctor and Leela arrive. But that fear is deep-rooted in Caldor society. So much so that there's even a severe psychological condition, Grimwade syndrome, otherwise known as robophobia, that affects a number of people, often causing them to lose their minds, suffering identity crises, and believing themselves to be surrounded by walking, talking dead men. So this makes the horror all the more palpable when the crew finally realize that all the Vocs aboard their vessel are trying to kill them, that they've been programmed to do so, and that no amount of argument from their human targets is going to do anything to sway them away from carrying out their commands, like the good, single-minded, obedient machines that they are. The Robots of Death, then, is both an existential horror story and a social commentary. It has a lot to say about money and class. Despite the fact that the robots do all the work, the people of Caldor are still all about making money. The crew of the Storm Mine 4 are no different, and the commander, Yuvanov, makes no bones about his desire to strike it rich. He'd even ride over a murder investigation if it meant landing on some lucrative ore. Not that he's allowed to. Yet even though he's commander, we see that he still seems to chafe at the merest hint that he's somehow socially inferior, and how he bristles when questioned by the ostensibly lower-ranked navigator, Zilda, sneering at her that she belongs to one of the founding families, which I think actually seems to be the thing that bothers him the most. It's another fascinating little detail about Caldor society, that it's hierarchical and, at least to some degree, dynastic. But that's the beauty of it. It's just one more detail, along with the interior design and fashion, along with anecdotes about out-of-control Vox and robophobia that arguably form no part of the actual story, like the murder mystery, but do so much to ground it all in a narratively believable reality. It's brilliant. Add to that the relationships between the characters, the friendliness, the disdain, sometimes the indifference. It all feels properly real. Just like the dynamics of any work setting, with the cool set, the jerks, the jokers, the quiet types, the serious types, all thrown together and obliged to coexist. The people around you are, for better or worse during those hours, a kind of family, with all the family politics that involves. Still, I think it's worth shouting out the friendship both between Commander Yuvanov, played by Russell Hunter, and pilot Lishtus, played by Pamela Salem, the great Pamela Salem, and later in glimpses between Poole, played by David Collings, and a certain Voc robot. They're great because they feel true. And all through it all, we have the Doctor and Leela. Despite some behind-the-scenes friction, mainly coming from a moody, increasingly egocentric Tom Baker, there is a tangible chemistry between these two characters, and Louise Jameson's performance, as I hinted at before, is absolutely spot on. The first we see of them is in the TARDIS's beautiful wooden secondary control room, and I think it's one of the best scenes that we ever get between any Doctor and a companion. It's sweet, and it's playful, and it's funny. First, we have Leela moving a yo-yo up and down because she thinks it's part of the magic that makes the TARDIS work, before the Doctor tells her he only suggested it because it's a game that he thought she'd enjoy. And then we have that amazing explanation for why the TARDIS is bigger on the inside than the outside. The Doctor tells her it's because insides and outsides are not in the same dimension, and then sets about proving it by holding a small box next to her and a bigger box further away and asking which one is larger. When she points to the bigger box, he tells her, if you could keep the bigger box that far away and have it next to her at the same time, the big one would fit inside the little one. To which Leela responds, quite understandably, that's silly. It is. It absolutely is. Even if it is trans-dimensional engineering, a key Time Lord discovery. And then we have the primary antagonist, the cause of all the Vox going mad and killing everyone. And you know what? I'm not going to say who it is, just in case on some insane off chance somebody is watching this review who doesn't know. All I'm going to say is that who they are, why they're doing it, and what they look like when they're doing it is just wonderful. I mean, it's properly bonkers and such a joy to watch. And their comeuppance, well, let's just say it's a high note. And that just about does it. Like I said right at the top, this is one of my absolute favourites, and accordingly, and without any hesitation, I'm giving it a cracking 9 out of 10. It's just so good. The world building, the way that the Doctor and Leela move around this world, the design, the story, the mystery. To me, it's perfect Doctor Who. In fact, I'd happily watch it again right after I'm done with this. Before that, however, it's time to pick 3 things from the Robots of Death to keep in my personal TARDIS databank. Number 1. Please don't throw hands at me. Number 2. The Laserson probe with the Laserson logo on the side. Again, it just adds to making the whole world seem really real. Number 3. The whole 9 times out of 10 exchange. Absolutely peak perfection. And that's it for this review. I hope you've enjoyed it and that it's made you all want to go out and watch it again for yourselves. As usual, leave your thoughts in the comments about this review, about the Robots of Death, about any stories you'd like me to review in the future, and I'll see you all again next time. Next time. Next time. Next time.